Hello, Patrick van Glaser. First question for you. Do you have special advice on the validation of sources?
Well, there are different ways to check out whether a source is true or not. First of all, let me say that the BBC way of checking proofs is also the best thing to handle this kind of aspect, because if you get a certain information, you should always double check it in order to make sure that the information is correct. The best way to obtain information is to get in touch with companies or organizations that focus on your special area, and maybe to get in touch with experts of that organization, because they know who the members are and they might provide you with the necessary information. And in addition, depending on, for example, if you like to get information out of Germany, there is an organization which belongs to the Ministry of Economic Affairs, which is called Germany Trade and Invest. They will gladly provide you with information on different countries and on companies operating there, but also on German companies who invest in that countries. So this might be a good way to do. In addition, I recommend you also to proceed the way journalists do it. Journalists working for leading papers prefer to get in touch with their archive who have lots of knowledge on certain topics. And if you are not working as an editor, you still have the chance to obtain this kind of information. For example, the German economic newspaper Handelsblatt offers the possibility to get in touch with all former editions of the Handelsblatt newspapers, but of course you should be a subscriber of this newspaper. The same way is also with the German newspaper FAZ. And you can be sure that also other leading economic magazines and newspapers will offer this kind of service, of course, for a certain charge to people who are interested in. In addition, it makes also very much sense to look for databases. And of course, you have to pay for them, but usually there are databases which are also used by investors, by companies. And so it's a good idea to do it, because for them, it's very important that the information is valid. Otherwise, they will lose their subscribers. So this is also an additional way to do.
Thank you very much. Obviously, we're living in the age of information warfare. We're talking about fake news, alternative facts, and all kind of fabricated news. Do you have a special recommendation on how to validate or how to handle information from these sources?
If you like to handle information warfare, if you would like to find out whether an information is wrong or not, first of all, it's a very good idea to ask yourself the question, cui bono, who has the advantage of this kind of thing? This might also be an idea to check where an attack might come from. In general, it is also very important to be aware what kind of sources you might use in that special topic, because depending on the area, you know whether you get in touch with databases or not. And it's always an idea also to, for example, look into the source code. This might provide you with additional help, or to make use of a special feature Google is offering. You can do a kind of research with pictures. You just connect the Google search engine with your pictures, and they make a reverse check and try to find out whether this picture has turned up in other connections. This is a very simple thing and might also help you whether, well, somehow certain pictures have been forged and whether certain information is wrong or half wrong, as it's always or very often the case with information warfare, that the information is not completely false, but half false. And once you have discovered this kind of wrong information, this might lead you also to additional information.
Thank you very much. Given that there is so much of information available or stuff we have to check through, do you have any advice on software tools that could help you to process this information?
In general, I would say it's a very good idea to make use of social media. On one hand, you can make use of a tool called Brandwatch, which is a tool coming from Great Britain, which offers you the help to make searches with the help of Boolean operators. So you can very much specify what kind of information you want. And for example, they will offer you the possibility to say, I would only like to get an information, an alert of accounts that have maybe 10,000 followers and so on. You will also be able to make sure that you get an alert if, for example, all of a sudden the name of your company turns up very often. This is a kind of alarm system. Which is also very good is to make use of HotSuite. This is a tool which is a combination of very simply posting information, and on the other hand, it offers a kind of dashboard where you can write down certain topics you would like to monitor. You see it like being in a space monitoring center on your screen, and you will always be very updated what kind of information turns up. In addition, there is a very big American social media monitoring and press release company called Meltwater. They also offer this social media monitoring tool. And there are other companies like Talkwater, EchoBot, Avario, Synthesio, not to mention Keyhole and Buffer, so many companies offering kinds of social media monitoring. So there's no problem of making use of these tools, but of course you have to pay for them.
Thank you very much for mentioning this as well. What do you see as trends for our community, the competitive market intelligence community? So what's coming up for us?
Well, first of all, I think it's important to mention the technological advance in certain areas. On one hand, if there is a social engineering attack via telephone, it's more easier to discover it because the telephone system will store all the information, who has called and who has talked with a phone caller and for how long. So a social engineering attack via the business phone system is made a little bit more difficult. And on the other hand, there is a certain problem with deep fakes. Artificial intelligence is able to create the impression that someone is saying something he hasn't said. And this has started in the movie industry in order to make sure that a movie is finished if the main actor has died. But meanwhile, it's possible also to copy the voice and the gesture and the mouth movements of leading people, whether these are politicians or CEOs. So in this case, it's always important to be aware that this possibility exists and not to take it for 100% sure if someone has said something in a way you are very much surprised. Usually, you should be sure that if a person behaves completely different from the way he has acted before, you should be especially very careful whether you might be confronted with a deep fake and maybe try to find out other sources. And generally, it's always a good thing to look in the source code, to look when it has been published. And maybe you find there are also some information. It's just a click with your mouse, with the right part of your mouse. And then you might also obtain this helpful information.
Patrick von Glaser, thank you very much for your advice. Bye-bye.
Welcome. Bye.